Good afternoon, everybody. This is MicheleMarieDalene with her. Well, I guess you can call it a special report. This is I just got live information about this, and I'm going to give it to you. At 2:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, a gunman, or possibly a group of gunmen, started firing shots at the U.S. Capitol. U.S. Capitol is currently in lockdown in Washington D.C. Well, we're on an issue. The Capitol, both Republican and Democrat uh, leaders met with President Obama, and no compromise has yet been reached on this third day of October of 2013. We have approximately about 13 days left before the United States is more than likely is going to default on its debt, and that's what we want to talk about today. I also want to talk about what I'm doing on the individual level as well. Um, First of all, Jacob Lew said the 17th of October because he said we have just about enough money in the shutdown status to maintain the government operating up until the 17th. It costs about 60 billion US dollars a day to run the government and keep it going during the shutdown phase. The problem is, he said on the 17th, we'll only have $30 billion and we will not be able to pay the people we owe money to, including China. Now, China has an agreement with the United States in order to get the United States to get the money that they wanted so badly. China basically says, okay, you default, we want land, we want eminent domain, we don't want your toilet paper. It's good enough for wiping our ass with, but otherwise it's useless to us. We want land, we want property. In the United States, under Hillary Clinton, delivered a note to the Premier of China that says basically is United States will now surrender at China's discretion any land, buildings, cities, what have you, for whatever is owed under principle $16.7 trillion debt. The chance of getting a increase in the debt ceiling at this point, I'd say, is not looking good for the American people. As I explained to one of my friends, I will explain to you. I rather put my money away and be wrong than find out that I'm right and have no backup plan at all. So, at an individual level, there's a lot of expenses being deferred until after the 17th of October to allow me to keep a backup plan operation in my own budget so that we will not be short cash. China, upon receiving the right to go to the United Nations Security Council and execute its notice of foreclosure, will of course be allowed, with the help of UN troops, will be allowed to enforce its deal that was signed between President Barack Obama and the Premier of China. A couple of years ago in the newspaper, I remember this still was a thing where the Premier of China said, "You can call me landlord." Basically, what it means is just like it sounds like, is that the United States will exist on paper, but it will be occupied and ruled by the Chinese government if we default. How is it going to affect people on disability entitlement programs, Section 8 programs? I have no absolute clue. I can tell you that the Winston Section 8 office is running. I have an inspection on October 7th. I already received the packet of documentation I need to fill out and get ready to sign off. My landlord is already asking me to sign the official lease between me and him for the month of the upcoming months. I guess like me, he realizes that as long as we have a written signed contractual agreement between us, that the Chinese government would have to enforce it, at least for a year. And then maybe after the year's up, once during the transition phase, there will be new rules, new programs put in place. Incidentally, the Chinese government, for the most part, is actually pretty cooperative with many handicapped individuals. Um, they have a right to work policy in China, which is not like here. When we say right to work, we're talking about on their entitlement programs. If you don't work, you get a small allowance like you do here, but you're strongly encouraged to become an active participant in society that you live in and make an honest wage that you could add to your stipend uh, instead of trying to have punitive measures to make it a one or the other. So therefore, however, we know that China does have issues with human rights violations, as reported by the United Nations several times in the past. However, um, I guess we might as well just be honest here. It's better that we have a good working relationship with the new landlords than we do trying to hold on to a system that is corrupt, failing, and is clearly circulating the drain. I'm talking about, of course, about the American economy. If you look at my playlists on my channel, you'll see several videos discussing this. Unfortunately, the short video, I guess, must have upset too many people, and it was removed by YouTube, or by the person who had the channel close the channel. I don't know what the story is, but the short little extra normal video, which is easy to understand, easy to digest, video is no longer there. So I guess now if you want to look about this eminent domain issue, you're going to have to look at some of the ones that are about 11 minutes long. You will find those on my playlist. So if you want to go check them out, just go to http://www.youtube.com/bichela4, and you will see in the playlist in the political section about what's going on excuse me, with China. That's how you can get to the point. Some of the videos are very disturbing, and some of them are, I seriously question if that's exactly what they're going to do. I hear a lot about Agenda 21, which is a United Nations program. I would recommend that you look up Agenda 21 if you are, if you're smart. I mean, if you have the time, it would really help you a lot to understand why they were mentioning Agenda 21. There's a lot of reasons why China would want U.S. land, including the state of California. So let me go through this right now, because California apparently is one of the states on the radar. Fukushima, which has been polluting the Japan Sea, which China has beachfront on, is creating a really serious problem for the well-being of China. China rightfully wants to have another place to send its people. But the problem is that obviously if they take over the United States, as they are expected to do if we default, there will be a couple things that they're going to have to get transition to work with their people. First of all, is the electrical voltage in the United States is on average is 120 volts AC at 60 cycles, whereas China is 230 volts at 50 cycles. That may not be a major issue right away, but they're going to want to change the voltage over. Also, the way the governments are set up are very different. However, being the fact is that the state of California is already bankrupt, it would be very easy to see how California would benefit by the Chinese when offering a huge influx of money and people into California. Now, next thing we're going to talk about is what about all the ghost cities in China? I'm going to mention the right to work, so let me talk about that too. In China, every Conrad has the right to work. Every one of you. even if it's digging a ditch. I mean, even if it's sweeping the street. To encourage economy, China built these cities, lots of them, and they have a huge glut of housing, lots of housing. Huge metropolises that are not even have anybody really in them for the most part. They have a super mall, which has very few stores in it, and businesses, the few that have come into the mall, say it's ghost town. There's nothing there. That's because it was built as a way to keep the Chinese workers working. Unlike the United States, the government of China had been investing a lot of money into infrastructure and things like that to keep its people actively working, and because they realized that under the Constitution, the right to work means, just like it sounds like, that everybody has a right to have a job if you want one. So that means they had to create jobs to do that. But that means that now you have all these empty cities. They got to fill them up. What better ways to do that is to bring Americans in here into China, and to give American people. There's enough empty vacant apartments in these metropolises that easily, comfortably provide for Los Angeles and San Francisco and San Jose the kind of housing that they would need, especially for those who have the money, because China wants a lot more money than per year for the apartments than most people normally think about. We usually think of rents by the month. Well, let's take a typical apartment rent, say for example for Boston, Massachusetts. I mentioned Boston or San Francisco is almost the same, is because it's a good example of what typical person is paying. In the United States, you could end up paying as much as $24,000 a year for a $2,000 a month apartment. In China, it's some of these high rises. We're talking about nice high rises, not the cheap ones. Costs a little bit less than that, about $17,000 a year in China to get an apartment in these unoccupied cities. The problem is because they're unoccupied, they're got beautiful storefronts, they have beautiful shops, but there's nothing in them. They're empty storefronts. So obviously they're going to want to fill them up. That's where China has got the itch. They got a glut of apartments. And it's possible that you might be able to get an apartment fairly inexpensively, especially if you're used to paying $2,000 US for an apartment in San Francisco. You might want to consider China if you want cheaper rent. Especially, but now since China supposedly wants California for itself, have the United States defaults, I guess your rent will be adjusted accordingly. And I mean, that's something we didn't talk about. Is if we default and China takes over, is that a good thing? At this point, I would say it is hypothetically a good thing for the handicapped, because they will be allowed to find work instead of just receiving a government stipend, which I think is a much better system than the way we do here in this country at this point. The jobs are out there. China will make sure you have one. You just got to be able to show up for work and do it. May not be the greatest job in the world. You could also start your own business. You could do whatever you need to get ahead. For the most part, China's rules are pretty relatively lax on the mainland. I looked at the policies. I heard on one video it talked about that they might want to use a reverse engineered 1918 influenza type virus to kill off a large portion of Americans, as possibly as many as 200,000, 300,000 of us. I mentioned many times also the Georgia Guidestones. It says to keep the population of the world under 950 million people. That's a pretty big chunk of vacancies. When you realize the U.S. population right now is 7.1 billion people. And that means that about six 6.15 approximately billion people will have to be exterminated. I'm not too keen on how they're gonna Georgia Guidestones implements that, but it just telling you I think it's all tied together. I believe that what is in Agenda 21 is going to be a key piece of what I have been hearing. So we might want to look into that. Now, let's talk about something a little more on the microeconomics. Yeah, let's talk about something a little more easier to digest. Okay. On the individual budgets and people on entitlements at this point, I would say if I were you, I would defer as many of your expenses as you can until we find out what's going to happen after October 17th. Because you may not have, if we default, the United States is not going to be given a credit line increase. Okay? That means that there will not be, for disability people anyway, there will not guarantee to be a check for you. For those who have retired, who have paid into Social Security for their retirement, you will probably be okay, but I can't really give you a definitive answer on that. So prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And if you're lucky, nothing bad's going to happen. And then you can go ahead and say, phew, I was glad I did that. Now at least I know how much money's left over. It's a lot better than having to say, oh shit, I underestimated. Now I have no food in November. Oh no, what am I going to do now? As I said, first thing is you've got, if those of you in entitlements, you just got paid today, pay your essentials. When I say your essentials, I mean your electric, your rent, your phone, your satellite TV may or may not be. I'm deferring that. My credit cards, all those are being deferred until after the event. Also, I'm going to be deferring a lot of food purchases as well because I might need that money for after the 17th. Some of you might say, well, should I invest in gold and silver? I'd say if you can buy gold, well, first of all, if you're in entitlement, you probably don't already have enough money to buy gold, so that's probably not going to be an option for you. Silver, might be able to buy a few coins, but don't expect that, you're going to be able to get much. You might get maybe 5-6 silver dollars of pure silver, uncirculated, or even circulated would be fine. And also needs a small coinage too, like dimes and quarters and some regular nickels, and honest to God real pennies, not the copper clad ones, and that way you'll have the money there for your needs to cover, because obviously silver is a precious metal, as is copper, and those will probably be worth the most value to you. So that'd be a great thing to save up your silver or copper coins. And any coins prior to 1965, it looks like silver, it is silver. Anything after 1965, I say 1964 is guaranteed. Anything after 1964, not so much. So you definitely will want to keep that in mind. Paper money is not going to be useful for anything. If the United States defaults, your U.S. Treasury bills are going to be garbage. There is a lot of smart investors are investing in the Chinese yuan right now. You really need to consider that as a Chinese economy. Even though it's having a hard time having their inflation right now. They are the most stable. So, even Japan has backed away from investing in the United States. So, that's going to mean to reason why you need to back up and say no, thank you. Um, I'm going to hold up on that. But I also wanted to let you know that I am very glad that you enjoyed the last video I did about how a Snow Queen changes your personality profoundly. I worked really hard on that video and I am very happy you have enjoyed it. I'm also happy to see that the Sabrina the Teenage Witch video did get more viewers on it, and I still haven't heard any comments from you at this point. But again, I want you to know that I am concerned about everybody. I might be the Snow Queen. I do like it cold. I do like it snowy. But, when it comes to this political stuff, I'm just as much watching it just as Bear does. And, Piers Morgan and Wolf Blitzer. I watch it just as much as them to understand what's going on. I may not be at top of it as they are. I don't have a huge news crew of people digging through the news articles. I will keep you abreast as best I can about how it will affect the average everyday user. That's what I do. And obviously, as I can tell you right now, if it does happen after October 17th, nothing is resolved with the debt ceiling with default. I cannot guarantee I will be on the air because depending on the way the Chinese infrastructure takes a hold, there may not be no internet. We already know that China already locks down internet for its own people. I got a strong feeling they certainly would do the same thing for the American internet as well. And then therefore, for that reason, we need to consider that after the 17th of October, I may not be online anymore. I will do my best to continue to present videos, but obviously, if I am not able to do so, now you understand why. Anyway, that's it for now. I would love to hear from you. Please contact me in the comment section below this video. Let me know what you think. How do you think it's gonna go? Okay, it's easy. It's http://www.youtube.com/BICHELA4. And you can also send me private email to bicchela3@gmail.com or bicchela3@yahoo.com. And if you want to make a PayPal donation to help do free the upbringing expenses, it is bicchela3@yahoo.com. Just in case you guys get it mixed up, I did activate bicchela3@gmail.com as well for PayPal. So anyway, you can send a donation to either one. And I guess that's about it. Could I say something now? Because I want to say something. Okay. Just I guess all I can say is guys, I want to make sure you understand one thing. I don't know what's going on with the Capitol shooting. I just know is that it's scaring me a lot. I don't want to see a revolution, really. But, as far as the Republicans versus Democrats versus President, why can't you guys just, for right now, just let the Republicans have what they want? It's really not unreasonable. No, it's not. We don't need to go there. We don't need another revolution. We don't need to have it end up becoming like Morsi in Egypt or Syria on homeland. But you know what, Loom? I think it's going to happen just like that because people are angry and frustrated and scared. Yeah, I know they're scared, but can't we work something else different out? I don't know. I've got an itchy scalp today. Yeah, I noticed that. Itch. All right, so I guess the only thing I could say is do us all a favor. Please like and share and subscribe to our channels, both of our channels, and let us know what you think is going to happen. That's it. That's all. Thank you much, everybody. Bye bye.